Okay, so today is March 17th, 2020, and today's fourth lecture. We can concentrate today around building the test cases. But before that, we wanted to review test plan strategy documents, what we covered last time to make sure that you would be able to build and create test plan. Okay, when you will start the first job, you're going to go on the first job, you're going to be assigned the first project, and you will be in a position to build a test plan. And you'll know exactly what goes into the test plan. You will know exactly how to put all the details into the test plan, because in most cases, in any company, if you go from one company to another company, you will have about 70 to 80% test plans looks the same. The information in test plans looks the same, okay? So only 20-25% are really slightly differ from company to company. So the good information which we covering here, you will have in place at least 80%. It will be similar. So for example, somebody, when you join a new company, they will say, okay, we have our own template for the test plan. And you will ask, okay, can I see it? You'll take a look, you'll open the test plan, and you will see, and you will remember me, because 80%, 70 to 80% of the information will be looking exactly the same what we're discussing right now. But I can guarantee that your template, which you already have, this is part of our QA Mentor library, and you'll have more and more documents as part of this library. Not many companies have, because that's very, very complete and comprehensive test plan. Okay, that covers a lot of angles, and it covers everything what you need in order to be able to properly construct the test plan in order for you and for some other testers to execute and complete the project on time and with best possible quality. That's the idea. That's the goal. Okay. So let's review very, very, very quickly, right? So what the test plan includes? Test plan includes extremely important. It consists of the scope, right? What is going to be tested as part of the overall release? So for example, you're writing a test plan for a release. You can write a test plan for major release, for minor release. Usually you don't write a plan like this for a sprint, 2-week sprint, because it's relatively short, right? But when it comes to a waterfall approach, if any organizations will follow a waterfall approach and they will request you to write a test plan by default, then you will know this is applicable. Again, please remember, in sprints, typically, there is no sprint test plan, okay? Because it's very hard to come up with a test plan for sprint. You know why? Because things are changing. Information is constantly changing. You might expect something today, but it's not going to be today. It's going to be tomorrow. And tomorrow, when you will see what that new user story, a new feature will look like, it will look differently based on the original requirements, and you will see, oh my God, but I created test cases based on this requirement, but this looks completely different. And you will say, oh, I need to modify my test cases. I need to update my test cases now, right? And that's what's happening, unfortunately. There's constant changes all the time. And that's the reason why it's called, continuous process, because it's iterative, right? Things are getting changed. It can change. It can never be finalized until the last day. And that's what makes this whole thing a little complex and very sort of disorganized, and you cannot really properly plan, where you will say, oh, I'm expecting this feature, and you got the feature, and this feature now looks differently because all of a sudden developers saw that it's got to be done a little differently from what the conversation was before. And you created already test cases, but now the test cases needs to be changed and modified and updated. How many times you would not believe we QA Mentor, my employees, modified test cases where the user story was provided to be complete, done, and we started building test cases based on that user story. We got the user story in QA environment. We got that feature, and that feature was 50% from what we originally had on paper in terms of the user story requirement. Okay, so you have to be ready. So features in scope, features outside of the scope, right? So what you will not be testing. And remember, I said that there are certain things which will not be tested at all. And they might not be tested because when we talk about integration testing, there will be some different systems integrated to your current system which you're testing. So sometimes there is really no changes in the other systems, and environment where you will be testing might not be connected to the other systems. So there is no changes in other systems, and environment does not allow you to test this properly. Then you have to include in the features out of scope or items out of scope, and you will specify that X, Y, and Z will not be tested as part of this release because, number one, we discussed with developers and there were no changes for the application X, Y, and Z. And also, environment does not support application X, Y, and Z. And as a result of it, it will be outside of the testing scope. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then tasks in scope, tasks outside of the scope, right? Again, the tasks are, what are you going to do? Extremely, extremely important. So what I want to refresh your memory is on this items, right? So this is the scope of the items. Every release, remember I said every sprint or every release will have three things. Do you remember which of those things are? What those three things are? It's like by default. It's an interview question also. What includes typically in a sprint or in a release? What things consist of? What are the three categories of things? Three categories. So the first, new features, right? That's brand new features. That's the first category of this. Second is modifications or enhancements to existing features, right? So that's fixing, not fixing, but modifying, changing, improving something which is already built previously. And the third category is carry over defects, right, from the previous release or releases or sprints, if we're talking about agile, something which was not addressed or something where it was not enough time to address those problems. They move and they push this into the new release, okay, or new sprint. So those three categories of things you must remember, and as a result of it, you have to specify in your scope so everything will be clear, okay, what is what? What this item? Is this a new feature? Okay, you have to indicate this is a new feature. Is this an enhancement? You have to indicate this is an enhancement. It's a defect, carry from the previous release. Please provide the defect number so it will be clear that this defect now, as part of this release or as part of this sprint, will be fixed. Okay? Mm-hmm. Any questions?
No, so far so good.
Okay. So the test schedule, right, and cycles, extremely, extremely important. So this is your plan. This is your project plan. This is how you will plan your work on this project, right? And this is typical types of testing or phases within the project testing cycle, which needs to be covered, right? So we're starting with requirements review analysis, which is the static testing, right? So all the user stories, everything needs to be verified and validated. So once again, it's all depends, right? So for instance, you might get user story on first day in a sprint, and then you will be able to get the next user story maybe 2 days after. So please remember, in Agile, you're not going to get everything, right, up front, all the user stories on day one, okay? You might get this at the later stages, okay, within this 2-week cycle. Ideally, everybody trying to have everything in place, because everybody, like, for example, you need to plan for next sprint, so you need to have something to understand what is the features and what is the scope. So developers will estimate and testers will estimate how long it's going to take to develop or to complete testing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
in Agile, I'm sorry. So in Agile, we will just put the estimation dates only compared to
no. Remember, in Agile, you estimating based on the what?
Requirement document.
Yeah, but what is the measure of the estimation?
Points.
Yes. So that's what you're measuring this against. But in your case, you know, even if you will say it will take me this particular user story to build the test cases and complete the execution 3 hours, if you will say that, that's also perfectly fine. Okay? Nobody will say, what? I don't know what hours means, you know. But in some cases, again, if you will know the value, like what is each point equals to, if it's 1 point for 1 hour, 1 point for 2 hours, you know, again, from company to company, I saw this different breakdowns. Okay, but if you will say specifically, it will take me to build the test cases 2 hours for this user story and to execute test cases 3 hours, altogether 5 hours. That's what people will be asking you to, and you have to provide this estimation. But in order to provide this estimation, you need to understand what that feature is, right? So you need to have something on paper. Now, the problem is that you might not have this up front on the paper. It might be just a discussions. So it might be just a meeting where product owner or business analyst will provide you just simply talk about this, and they will say, well, this is what we need to build, or this is how the feature should look like, or this is how the function should work. Okay? So this is how it's going to be. All right? So it's very, very important to understand. In some cases, you will have a user story available so you can review. In some cases, you will not. Okay? You will not. Just 1 second. I'm going to get some tea because my throat is kind of dry, and I will be back. Just 2 minutes, okay? One.
Okay. Okay.
Hello. So sorry. I'm back. You there?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So, any questions about the plan? Again, the plan extremely important. During the interview, somebody might ask you again, how are you going to estimate? How long it's going to take you? You will do the real project. When we're going to place you on the real project, probably we need another week or so of sessions. So we will finish this week and then following week, and then I will start placing you into the project. So you're going to start getting some feel of this. We're going to discuss, you will see with guys, what are we testing, what are the estimations, how people are estimating. You know, you're going to start getting a little bit more details. Right now, I understand, you know, it's a little complex for you. You're kind of questioning how am I going to be able to tell them, you know, based on what? If I don't have a lot of experience, how am I going to tell them how long it's going to take me to test? But remember, we said, always think of validation scenarios. If you see a new screen and this new screen consists of multiple fields, you check and you make sure that you're verifying every field for special character support, for the field length, for boundary testing. And boundary testing, remember we said if the field accepts 20 characters, you test this with 21. More than one, then it's supposed to be like 20 is the limit. You're trying with 21, you will do with 20, you'll do with 19, and you will do with nothing, empty. And you'll see it. Because remember, you got to watch for the asterisk. Asterisk represents the mandatory fields. You got to look for this. You got to make sure it's there so it's understandable. You got to make sure the error messages, appropriate error messages, are getting displayed when you will enter something incorrectly, right? So all of this, when you review this user story or a specific requirement, all of this should be in your mind going on, and you kind of start thinking, okay, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do. Okay, it probably will take me 3 hours to build test cases. And remember what we said. Remember, this is the math. This is extremely important. How many test cases per day can you build? What did I say?
10
on average.
10 to 12 on average test cases we can build, and 12 to 15 we can execute. But if it is just for the UI, we can do more than that. That's
Perfect.
what we said last time.
Excellent. Excellent. That's, remember, this is extremely important. So you will remember that. So if you're looking at the user story and you're thinking, well, this user story, I would need to build about 20 test cases, then if on average per day you need 12 to 15, then you need 20, so you will say, well, I need 1.5 days just to build it. And then we execute probably the same. So you will say, okay, 1.5 to build it, 1.5 to execute it, total 3 days. So in 3 days, I will complete testing on this user story. That's it. That's what you have to do. That's what people will be waiting from you, expecting you to provide the information. And believe me, Scrum Master will require this information. Scrum Master needs to know. You will have this information outlined because they measuring this. They have this burnout chart. Burnout chart will show who is doing what, how many developers working on this, how many testers working. So it's kind of utilization graph, which will show, how busy things are going on, right? So he will know or she will know by, stating that this user story will take a testing person 3 days to build test cases, to execute test cases, right? And find defects and document defects. That's what the turnaround time will be. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Understand?
Yeah. Ruslan, if we do mistake, not a mistake, but we assume that it will take 1.5 days, but what if it takes me to build test cases, like 30 test cases I have to build, and I estimate it is 1.5 days, but actually it took me 2 days, but I already put here 1.5 days, will it be a problem? Because I already documented it. It will take 1.5 days, but actually I took 2 days.
Yeah, actually that would be the problem because that leads to completing sprint late. So with any estimation, remember, rule of thumb is with any estimation, you add a contingency, okay, on top of this. So what I would do is I would say if I have 3 days, I add, half a day as a contingency. So in other words, for every day, I will add, 1 hour of contingency, 1.5 hour of contingency, right?
Okay.
Just to be on the safe side because anything can go wrong. So, and they will ask you, and they might ask you, so what is your strategy to estimate? You said that I'm estimating based on my productivity levels, based on the number of test cases I can build and execute per day, but also I'm putting, 15% contingency to my estimation because you never know what can happen, what kind of circumstances you can end up with. So I always build in contingency on top of my estimation. If you will answer that, they will say, hats off, fantastic. You know what you're doing. So just remember that again. Okay? They can ask, 100% they can ask. Don't forget about contingency. Okay? So, but again, I mean, we always see this all the time where we underestimating things. We think it will take 3 hours, it's taking 6 hours. We think it takes 2 days, it's taking 4 days, right? It's always the case because you never know. There's delays, not your problem. Developers delaying things because of that. You were supposed to start today, but because you're starting tomorrow you were planning some other activities, and now there is a conflict for you because it got delayed. So you got 2 things to do at the same time. So what do? Right? That's always constant challenge, right? So that's why it's so difficult to plan properly. Now, and that's the reason why when you provide this estimates, they try to put your estimates, and that will protect you from assigning you more work, right? Because the Scrum Master will know you are utilized for the next 2 days, or 3 days, whatever estimation you provided. For the next 3 days, you're going to work on this user story. So you cannot be bothered by anybody else. Otherwise, it's going to impact your estimation, and you're not going to be able to deliver on time based on what you expected. Okay?
Got it.
Understood, right?
Yeah, got it. Understood. Thanks.
Okay. Remember defect leakage. Did we talk about defect leakage? What is defect leakage? And we said we're going to touch base this later on when we're going to talk about metrics and other things. But did I tell you what
defect leakage? I went through the recording. I am not sure if we talk about defect leakage. Even if we did, maybe we're supposed to discuss 2 days.
Right. So let me emphasize this because it's extremely important. The defect leakage is your report card in school. Defect leakage will tell how good you did your work. Now, I'm referring to you, but the testing is for everybody, right? There are multiple people who can be involved in testing. But every piece of the application, every user story, every module, one person is assigned to, okay? Or somebody is assigned to something, right? It might be 2 people assigned to the same thing, right? But if you're testing module X, you're responsible for testing it fully. You're responsible for making sure there is no defects. Because later on, when you release this application and in production, somebody will find a defect for module X, they will ask, Aparna, you were testing it. How come you missed this? They will track you down. They will come back to you and they will say, what did you test? Did you have this test covered? Did you have this test case? How come this is not working? Did it work in your test environment? Now, there are situations where in your environment where you were testing it, it was working. And then it got broken. Do you know why? Because there might be, you tested this on Monday, on Tuesday there were new changes for a new functionality, completely different thing. But developer break by accidentally break this feature which you tested on Monday. You didn't test this on Tuesday because you know that there is a different user story deployed on Tuesday. So you rely on your testing on Monday because you tested on Monday and things were working fine. And then on Wednesday you said everything looks good. So what have happened is developers break your feature which you tested and confirmed that it was working. And they broke this by introducing a new fix or a new user story or a new enhancements for something else, not necessarily for what you tested. So developers have a tendency of breaking things. And that's why you heard this term regression testing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that.
That's why you gotta do regression testing all the time. And that's why doing regression testing all the time is very time consuming. And that's the reason why regression testing needs to be automated, because you have to rely on regression testing. So if you would have automation scripts, you would run this on Tuesday and they will see, you will find out right away that they break something which you tested on Monday because you already have an automation script covered. But because you don't have the automation script covers, if you didn't expect that in this module they can possibly break it because they were doing something else, you see, how can you rely on something which was tested on Monday and today is Friday? Can you rely on something which was tested on Monday?
Say it again.
You can, right? You cannot, because you don't know. Developers can break anything. So that's why when you planning to release and sign off on the release or on the sprint, you have to run and you have to do a final regression test.
But
you have to.
Ruslan, before we start testing, don't we have to check that if the code is freeze or not, so that there will be, we can test it in a stable environment?
Yes, that's called smoke test or sanity test. Correct. That's one thing, but that's before. We're talking about releasing this, right? Releasing this to production. We are done. We're stating that it's Friday. We think it's ready. We're releasing it. But I'm saying you cannot release this. You cannot rely on something which you tested on Monday and say on Friday it's working. You cannot assume. You cannot assume. And for that reason, you have to run regression testing at the end of the day. And that's why regression testing is extremely time-consuming exercise. Why? Because you have to cover all the features again.
Everything. Yeah.
Whatever you tested in 5 days, you have to do it in 1 day. Imagine that. In 1 day, not in 5 days.
It's a lot of testing. But also, will dev notify us if they do any changes or anything after we're done testing in this?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So what needs to take place, remember I was talking about release notes. Why do we need the release notes? Remember I mentioned this before? And I said every sprint or every new code promotion or code deployment or build, remember? That's equivalent to the same thing. Code promotion, code deployment, or build is the same thing. It's when you take, not you, but a developer or configuration manager, build manager, takes a code from development environment and copy this code into the test environment and push this code. It's called a push deployment, right? And deploy this in test environment. So what we need to ask first is, where is the release notes? In the release notes, developers should specify what is going as part of this code changes. Again, and what can be going as part of this code changes? New feature, it could be a new user story, deployed today, and you need to start testing. It could be an enhancement. It could be a defect fix, right? So you need to know. Now, if I say I fixed this defect number 36, and you look at this defect, okay, it still will not give you an idea. What is the impact? What did I change? Because this defect, if I change the code and fix it, I might break a couple other modules. So the goal is for you to work very closely with the developer and find out from them impact analysis. They need to provide you this impact analysis. If they change X, what is the impact on Y will be? Is there any impact? In some cases, they understand and they will say, yeah, there is an impact. In some cases, they said, don't worry, there is no impact. Well, you have to trust, but verify. Sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes they said, don't worry, nothing changed, and then there will be a mistake. But you will see, you will find out. Working with those developers, you will know who to trust and who not to trust. And at some point of time, you will know also if registration, if I'm changing something in registration, right? Now, and you have reports, you understand that if there is no report capturing information what is in registration, that means nothing can be broken in the reports because registration has nothing to do with the reports, right? So in this case, you should say, well, if you change the registration, I'm not going to verify lots of things in the report. I might generate one report just to be on the safe side, but I'm not going to test thoroughly everything in the report module because it doesn't make sense. It's just a waste of time, right? So that's how impact analysis works, and this is, you need to work very closely with developers. Interview question. They will say, so you're running behind, you have 1,000 test cases as part of regression testing, you're on the last day of testing, what are you going to do? It's not possible for you to execute all the 1,000 test cases. What are you going to do? So you're going to say, I have to perform impact analysis of the latest build. I need to understand what are the changes are as part of that build. Okay, what was changed? And I need to identify the candidates for regression testing to assure that impacted areas are covered and everything what is going apart as part of this new build is verified and validated as well. So you're verifying, validating new thing, you're verifying and you're validating existing thing. But there are so many things of existing things, right, out there. There's much more than the new things. So that's where time-consuming effort is. So you need to be extremely smart and work with developers on this only to understand what are the impacted areas. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You understand, right?
Yeah.
So back to my question. So what is the defect leakage? Defect leakage is the number of issues which testing team missed during the testing, and the customer identify this in production environment or user acceptance testing environment. Remember, what is user acceptance testing? And after which phase is going? User acceptance testing after system
testing is done.
Yes. After system testing or system integration testing or system acceptance testing, it's called. Just remember those concepts. System testing, system integration testing, system acceptance testing. But that's the formally system testing. After system testing is done, the user acceptance testing phase formally starts. Now, to you, this is like production. Nobody should find any defects during the user acceptance testing. If people who conduct, and people who conduct could be operational people, there could be a separate team who always do user acceptance testing, or there could be users who is doing user acceptance testing. Every company is different. Every company works differently. But from your perspective, if somebody finds a defect during the user acceptance testing, and then you check that defect in your environment, in the test environment, and you acknowledge that, yes, there is the same defect and we missed it, that's called a defect leakage. Okay?
So you
now you explain how to count the defect leakage. So the fruits of your work is measured with the lowest possible defect leakage. The more defects you discover, the less defects identified by customers, it's where your success is.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody on the interview will ask this question. So how do I know, a partner, that you are successful? How do I know that you are a good tester? How do I know that? How can you prove that? So what you're going to tell is that in every project I am involved in, I would like to measure a defect leakage because I know I'm responsible for a certain module, for a certain functionality, for a certain user story, and I want to make sure that everything what is assigned to me is 100% of exceptional quality, that I verify and validate all of these functionalities through the positive and negative test cases. And today we're going to talk about what is positive test cases, what is negative test cases. And I don't want to see any defects missed after me. Okay, that's my goal. That's what I'm aiming towards. So I always, when the project is done, when the project is complete, I check with the product owner, because usually if you go to production, within the same 2-3 days, users will have problems, right? Users will find problems right away because there's a lot of users, they will see problems right away. So they will see right away what is missed, what is not missed. Now, it's extremely important to retest the problem. If there is a production problem, the first thing product manager or Scrum Master together, they will alert and they will come to QA team and they said, do you know we have a problem in production? And you will say, really, what's the problem? And they said, look, this is the defect description. And you read it and you say, okay, let me try to reproduce this in QA environment. And you start reproducing this in QA environment, okay? So if you can reproduce this in QA environment, it means you missed it. If you cannot reproduce this in QA environment, then there is more investigation. It means that in production, it's a little different. There's something different. And what is different? It could be set up for a particular customer different. It could be the customer using different data, okay? And in your case, you use different data. It could be many, many different things. But it will be good thing that you prove that in your environment, in QA environment, which you tested, there is no problem. That means it's not going against you. It means the defect leakage is not against you. But it's in your interest to figure out and find out why in production they see this problem. Because maybe if you would use a different data for your test case, you would find the same problem, right? So it's got to be very, very important. So the test data, and we will talk about the test data when it comes to our topic today with the test case development, test case generation. Test data extremely, extremely important. So the defect leakage is, you understand what it is. It's your report card. It's how good of a tester you are. Okay? How good of a tester you are.
Question: if we missed a defect and it went to the production, did we lose our job? Did we lose our job, or what will be the consequences of missing the defect?
What do you say? I'm sorry?
What will be the consequences of missing the defect as a tester? Like I can, yeah, if I lose a job, or okay, they fire you, or
yeah, you might get fired if it's an obvious defect which you just missed. It was so obvious, and what do you mean by obvious? You have the test case for it. If you have a test case which is written, you have to execute this step, you have to enter this data, and somehow you didn't enter it and you didn't execute it, then you need to be fired because you're not following instructions. You're not following the test case. That's the board thing. Now, if you would tested this and it was working, and then what I just described before, developers break this later on, and you just didn't have time to retest this because you didn't expect they will break it, it's a different thing. Then won't fire you. Now, don't be scared. I've seen people firing over this problem, over this defect. Okay? I never fire. I give second chances, but they're different managers. But I would fire if you would miss the obvious problem. If you're missing obvious problem, you're not a tester. You cannot work in testing field. I mean, you need extra glasses. You need something, right? I mean, if you see a problem, if like 10 other people would see the problem and you're not going to see the problem, you should not be working in the testing field. Do you understand? Because that's all about your concentration. That's all about your paying attention to details. It's all about your eyes, you know. That's what it is. That's what it is. Now, when you gain experience, you will know how to find defects much quicker and faster and easier because you will know what typical mistakes developers do. So if I go to test right now any application, I will hit the weak spots, the areas where I know developers have issues and developers have problems. And the first area we all discussing all the time, it's field validations, right? They don't put field validations. If you put special characters, it will break the system, right? If you put more than 20 characters, it will accept, right? Those types of things developers keep forgetting. And those types of things you need to score, like a soccer. You score the goal on them, on the developers, right? You find that defect. And so many times you score the same goal and developers don't learn the lesson. And they constantly missing the same goal because they don't fix the problem or they don't double check the problem.
Right.
Okay? So you understand.
Yes.
And production defect leakage analysis, typically, you monitor, after the release goes live, you monitor for a period of 4 weeks. That's average. And then you collect all of the defects which identify in production, and you calculate the defect leakage. How to calculate? I give you a formula, I give you the template, you will know how to do it, and you will do it. Okay? And we will have some cases, some examples, where you learn how to calculate the defect leakage. Extremely, extremely important. Senior testers do not know how to calculate defect leakage. Okay? Senior testers, some of them do not know how to calculate defect leakage. It's a big problem.
So defect, basically, we can put it this way, all the defects that we find during the production, we collect all of them, and that is the defect leakage?
All of them, yes. I mean, but remember what I said. If you reproduce this problem in QA and you see this problem, yes, it's going against you. If you cannot reproduce this problem, it cannot go against you. You need to see why. What was different that the client can see this in production, but in test environment, I'm not seeing it. It could be that your test environment is not exactly the same as production. Then it's a bigger problem because you got to test in the same environment, not in the same production environment, similar look-like environment. You got to have the same setups. You got to have, more or less similar data. You cannot have the same data because in production it's private, confidential data of the real users. In test environment, this data can be different, changed, masked, and so on and so forth. Understood?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So entry criteria, exit criteria, you gotta review this, you gotta understand this, okay? If you don't understand from this something, you gotta ask me a question because you need to understand this, okay, what each of the things does, okay? Because this is methodology. This test plan is the methodology. So let's scan this through. I think we still have time. Now, the question to you, in the virtual online class, 30 days, how to become QA tester in 30 days, did you cover this test case section? Like, did you see how the case should look like? Do you remember anything? Or it's like you blank on the test cases?
How the document should look like? Is that what you're asking?
No, like, if I will tell you, can you create me a test case now? Do you know how to create a test case now?
I think we discussed it before. We have a ID.
Test ID, and yeah, but what I'm asking, do you remember in your book how to become QA tester in 30 days, or in the video lectures, do you remember this section or talking about building the test cases the proper way?
I'm sure. I went through all the chapters I did, but right now I cannot remember. But I'm sure there.
That's fine. I'm just asking. Okay. That's okay. So the reason I'm asking, I need to understand how much time allocate. Should I go more on this, or should I stop and we're gonna come back to this at the latest?
I think we discussed about entry and exit criteria.
But can I ask? I mean, are you ready to answer me a question?
Oh, you can ask and I'll try to answer.
Yeah.
Or at least I would know what will be the interview question.
Okay. So, why do you think code reviews needs to be shared with the QA team?
So that we know what is the changes and what exactly we need to test.
Code reviews is not the changes. Code review is not the release notes.
Code review.
You see this line? Do you see the screen?
Code review. We discussed about test entry and exit criteria, but I'm not sure. Did we go in detail last time? Because I blanked out.
The detail. So this is extremely important. Like those points, it's the QA methodology. It's our methodology. Everybody has different methodology. This is QA mentor methodology. Now, some companies will have something like this. Some companies might not have something like this. They might not even have 50% on what is there, right? This is our methodology to assure at the end of the day that the release will be successful in terms of the quality, that the release will be complete in terms of adherence to the requirements, that the clients at the end of the day, they will be happy, okay? They will be happy to receive this application and the requirements which they requested originally are met. and they're satisfied with what was built. Remember our example. Are you satisfied when the builder complete your house and you walk in and you see one small car garage for one car? Would you be happy or not, right? Or you'll see the pool and it's not deep enough for you, and you said, how come you didn't build 9 feet and you have only 4 feet? I mean, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna jump into the pool, right? So that's the thing. So by following all of this methodology, entry criteria, exit criteria, that discipline the process, and that's assure that the application will be built the right way and the quality will be there, and everybody will be verifying and validating their own work before they transfer this over to somebody else. It's like throwing the ball across the fence, like volleyball, right? We don't want to be playing volleyball with developers. They throw here, you throw back. They throw bucks, you throw buck back, right? We don't want to do that. We want to fix, and we want to minimize, and we want to eliminate, and we want to avoid defects to begin with, right? So the code review is important to share to provide some level of confidence that developers did some kind of review of their code before moving the code into QA. If you did something, right? If you as a mother didn't check your daughter's homework and send her to school, and she went to school and the teacher grade her homework and give her fail, it's your problem because you didn't review it, right? And she delivered poor quality homework results, right? So that's the same thing. If they will provide you code reviews, again, you don't know if they did a good job or not, but at least they did something. In many cases, developers will not do anything. And not because they're lazy, but because they're out of time. They don't have enough time. Okay? They don't have simply enough time to do it. Now, do you remember we talked about peer reviews on test cases? So we didn't talk about this topic yet. Peer reviews is the same thing. You wrote the test case. Somebody needs to review your test case to make sure your test case is complete, to make sure your test case covering all the angles. So somebody else got to review this before we conclude that you did the test case and you complete the design of the test case. Same goes for the code reviews. If I'm a developer, I write the code, I might make mistakes there. I want somebody else to double check my code. And that's what code review is. And when I'm delivering you something, and this is the entry criteria, entrance, right? The code is entering QA. You're opening the gate and you said, okay, please deliver code to me. Let me start testing. But wait a minute. I want to see first your code reviews. Did you do it? Yes. I want to know your unit test results. Show me how many scripts are passed, your unit test. 80% are passed, let's say 20% were failed. So that means, 40% failed. So does it mean you're delivering some failures to QA already? And they said, yes, there's 3 defects which we know, but we didn't get a chance to fix it. So they will be fixed tomorrow. So please don't report those defects right now because we are aware of those defects. We know them. So don't worry about them. You might end up in this situation, okay, where developers will say, we didn't have time to fix 3 problems. We will explain you those 3 problems. So you will avoid duplicate defects because we're already aware of this. You don't need to report them because we are aware of them. You understand? Okay? this is what I just discussed. Known issues should be explained to QA team prior code deployment. So if there are known problems, known issues, I want to know. You want to know about them, right? Otherwise, you will say and you'll start complaining. You say, oh, this is not working, that is not working. But they said, well, but I explained it will not work because we know and we didn't have time to fix it. So tomorrow, in the next code promotion or code deployment or next build, this defect will be addressed. Do you understand? So any questions?
When we write the test plan, we have to. It has to be reviewed by QA manager and product owner and
all the stakeholders. Correct. Development, Scrum Master, product manager, product owner. Mm-hmm. Yes. In some, you will find out. Some companies, they already have this built-in process. So the test plan is not approved until it's signed by developer manager review it, maybe development lead, maybe QA manager or test lead, product owner. You know, the more people will review, the better it will be because they will see the plan, they will see the coverage, and this is the opportunity for them. This is the opportunity for them to complain at this point of time what needs to be changed in the plan or what they're not agreeing with or disagreeing with or not happy with. Okay?
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, got it.
So what is the exit criteria? So this is exit from where? The entrance is the code is coming to you from the development side, and the exit is you opening the gate and you said, it's done. Everything looks great. Ship it out. Release it. And this goes where? To UAT, user acceptance testing. Right? Mm-hmm. So what needs to be completed from our side in order to conclude the victory? That everything looks good, UAT, you start. Right? So that's the aim. UAT requesting this information. They said, well, I'm not going to waste my time if system testing team, QA team, will not provide me with X, Y, and Z. And this is what X, Y, and Z. So all planned testing activities have been completed to the agreed level. So what does it mean, agreed level? Agreed level means that in many organizations, they said that at minimum, you need to execute and pass 99% of the test cases. If you have less than 99%, then the release is not ready. You cannot go live. And again, those targets defined from company to company. There is no specific agreeable metric there. I cannot say in our company we're targeting 90% or 95%. It all depends and varies from company to company. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in order to start UAT testing, they need exit criteria document?
This is the methodology. This is the plan. Some companies will not know what the hell is this. Do you understand? Again, remember, this is the process. This is what needs to take place. This is mature process. In some other companies, they'll say, oh, guys, so what do you think? They're not going to even look at your results. Aparna, you said, oh, I tested. It looks good. Oh, okay, let me start. Is it a process?
Yeah.
Do you want to follow this process?
No,
this is not the organized process, right? So for that reason, you have to bring maturity. Now, we're teaching you the maturity. We are QA mentor, okay? We're teaching you the best practices, okay? It's not like somebody is training you and this person working for X company and this person will tell you, oh, my company is doing it like this, okay? We know how to do it because we see how other companies doing incorrectly. So we came up with this methodology. We came up with this rule of thumb. We came up with this Bible of, specific things which needs to be followed by everyone. And if everybody will follow all those things, you will be successful in delivering a really usable product to the market.
Okay. And it is with both method, either it's waterfall or agile. It is for both method.
I mean, you can apply to both again, because after sprint, UAT starts as well. In agile, it's a little bit more flexible. Okay, not that strict. This is more, I would say, for the waterfall release. Okay, for the waterfall when you complete this. But some of those items absolutely must be also part, regardless this is waterfall or agile. It's got to be applicable to. Okay. But let's just review them. So all planned test cases needs to be executed, and actual results needs to be recorded in test case management system. So if you have planned to execute 1,000 test cases and you executed 800 test cases, you didn't finish your work. You didn't complete the release. So in your test management system, you should have 1,000 test cases executed, right?
Mm-hmm. But we didn't.
You should have 1,000 test cases executed. If it's not done, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All critical, serious, and medium severity defects have been tested and passed testing. Now, critical, serious, medium, you don't see low, right? So again, in some companies, they might say they're okay with medium and low not being fixed. It depends, okay? But the problem is it's not your conclusion. It's not your responsibility to decide. You, part of the Scrum team, if it's an agile, you have you voice your opinion. You might say, I don't think it's ready because it still have lots of defects unresolved. They will ask you, do you have critical and serious issues? And you said, no. Okay. Issues? Yes. And then collectively, Scrum Master, product owner, some representative from the business side, from the stakeholders, they need to decide collectively if this is ready to go to production with the known issues, with the defects, or not. And somebody will say from the business side, no, you have 6 medium defects. I'm not going to wait for the next sprint for this to be addressed. I don't want clients, customers to see those defects in production. I mean, that's going to be disaster. No, you got to fix this. This is not going. Okay? That's not your call. That's not your decision. But you need to provide this information. And you're going to provide this information in the form of final test completion execution report, which we're going to get to that to talk, and you will be building this report. Remember, we talked about it. What you're going to build as part of any release or as part of any sprint, what you're building, right? So you're building test plan, you're building test cases, high-level scenarios, detail-level test cases. You're providing status updates. You're building on a daily basis status reports. And then at the end of the day, you provide completion, execution, sign-off report. That's the things which you're responsible for, and you're building, and you have the ownership of it, and you know how to build it, you know how to modify it, you know what to put inside. If you will know all of this, and you will know all of this, because otherwise without this, you're not going to go on the interview, period. So you're going to build all of this, I'm going to review all of this, and I will tell you, you're good, you did it, you know how to put it now, and I'm not worried you would be able to do it at work, at the real work. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to many other training institutions, oh, I'm going to show you this, and that's it. Do you think it's great? You're going to build a test plan very soon. Do you understand? Without this test plan, you're not going to be able to graduate from this program. You're going to build a test plan yourself. You will see, for the application. Okay? You're going to build test cases. You're going to build detail level test cases. You're going to provide status update. You're going to execute everything in the test management system. And then you're going to provide a sign-off on the project. And you will provide completion report. You're going to do all of these things. What are you? In all the other schools, you just hear about this. And then when you go in the interview and somebody asking you a specific question relating to this document, you never built this document before, and they are paralyzed because they lied. They said they did it, but they didn't do it. And now they're embarrassed, and now they don't know what to answer, and they fail the interview. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Right. That's true.
Okay. So we got to stop at this point here because we got to work on the test cases. Okay? Got to go and start working on the test cases. So how the test case looks like, how the test case is built, how the test case is designed, right? So let me search for test case samples. Okay. So this is for one of the client. This is how they like us to build the test cases in spreadsheet format. They didn't have the test case management tool. They didn't have it. They didn't have money to buy one. And they said, don't worry about it. Use the Excel spreadsheet. So if company does not have a test case management tool, they will request you to build this in simple Excel spreadsheet. And that's what you need to learn how to do it. And that's what we're starting this with, building in Excel spreadsheet. Now, the homework will be for you to build a test case in the test management tool. We have this product called QA coverage. We own this product. We sell this product to various of different clients around the world. You will have access to free, obviously, to this product. And you have to do the exploratory phase of this product and figure out how to build test cases in that product, okay? But I'm going to send you an overview of this product. You will have the idea what that product is all about first. But you got to find a place there where to build the test cases. So you'll replicate the same test cases. First, you build on Excel here, and then you put this test case in that test management platform. So you will understand that there could be two options: to have test cases on a piece of paper in Excel, which is the last century, old-fashioned way, or you're going to have the modern style way in a test case management system, organized, created there step by step with the expected results, with the test instructions, preconditions, test data, and everything else. Okay?
You're going to send me the detailed product so that I can build test cases from there?
Yeah, I will send you where to go, what to do, and how to do it. And not tomorrow, again, next week, you got to start doing the homeworks, because you're not showing me your homeworks, what you do, right? Every time I have homework to do, every time. So you got to start showing me what you did, because without it, it's going to be very difficult for you. Do you understand? So you got to show me what you did. Like, remember before I asked you, find static testing defects, describe them, show them in the requirements itself, find at least 5 or 10. I don't remember what I said. So, that's the homework. That's what you got to do, right? That's what you're going to find, because on the interview, they will say, so what types of defects you identify as part of the static testing? And you're going to remember them because you recently identified them. You remember because those defects are very common. They getting repeated from one requirement to another requirement. So the more defects you identify, the more possibilities you will be aware of. Do you understand? So
share this screen. I don't know how to share the screen.
No, I will show you. Not now. I mean, next time. But not now. Let's talk about the test case. So what is the test case? Test case is the sequence of steps to perform validation for a particular objective, goal or objective of the test, right? So every test is built with some specific target, with some specific mission to test something, to verify something, to validate something, right? So the test case will represent step-by-step instructions to verify and validate and achieve the mission of validating what it's supposed to be validated. Now, the test cases are representing the coverage of your requirements, whether it's a user story, whether it's called the functionality, not the user story, whether it's called enhancements, whatever it is. If you have the requirement, you have to have the test cases associated with this, okay? And you have to build test cases for it, okay? You have to build test cases for it, right? So there are two levels of test cases. There are high-level scenarios and detail-level test cases. Detail-level test cases are the test cases where you can see steps. I call them babysitting steps, where my 9-year-old daughter would be able to follow, right? So why do we need detailed steps? Because if you're not here, you're on vacation or you're out sick, and somebody needs to execute this test case, they will take this test case and they will follow step by step this particular test case. Okay? And they will know what the steps are. If you have a very high level scenario, nobody will understand where to go, what to click, what to enter. Those details will not be there, and as a result of it, they will be confused. They will not be able to follow this through. Right?
Okay. Okay. So, which both are equally important, but low level.
So the detail level are the ones which are most important. Why? Because it brings more benefits. Now, the first benefit is what I just explained you, that anybody who not familiar with application would be able to follow and execute this through and will not get lost. Second is those test instructions, steps, can be provided to the automation engineers. Okay? Automation engineers can take those manual test cases and they can automate and convert them into the automation scripts. Now, if you will give a high-level scenario to the automation engineer, they will not be able to follow this through. They would need to try to understand what that functionality is. They would need to go through the steps, and then they need to spend a lot of time to understand this first. So that's another reason why detailed test cases are extremely important. But when it comes to the cost, how much, right? It's expensive, meaning that you can invest more time to build detail level test cases as opposed to building a high level test cases, high level test.
So question, right? Every time automation engineer is running, they are using manual test case, detail level test case from us. They are using our test cases, whatever we build.
That's correct. That's correct. For the most part, this is how it works. So you provide the manual test case to the automation engineer, and they'll automate based on that. Now, nowadays, manual testers, there's no manual testers for Agile anymore. So you build the manual test cases, and then you automate it yourself. And that's what's happening nowadays. Old-fashioned way was you build a manual test case, you give this to the automation engineer, and he or she will automate it. Now, in any organization, it's still the same process. But in Google, in Amazon, in Microsoft, you build the test case, you automate that test case yourself. That's the goal, that's the responsibility. Do you understand? Okay. And that's why right now, nowadays, why everybody wants you to know automation, just because of that. You build a test case and you need to automate. Instead of you passing this test case to somebody else for the automation, you yourself automating it. But remember what I said before. This is what people are dreaming about, but this is not the reality. In the real world, only in certain companies, you build test case and you automate test case. But for the most part, you build test case, you manually execute test case, and somebody else who is knowledgeable, automation expert or automation engineer, will automate that test case. And then you can execute this. You can run this automation script yourself. That's you can do. That's easy to do. Or they can run. Or anybody can run.
Okay, got it.
Do you understand?
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah.
So what do you see here? You see here the test case ID. So every test case should have a unique ID. You have the module, right? Why do you need to have a module here? You need to have a module to understand where this test case belongs to, right? Mm-hmm. So it's easy to trace and identify. So remember, if you will have 10,000 test cases, how do you know how to select and find this particular test case? You will know because it will represent login module. So you'll say, okay, in my login module, I may have 200 test cases, but overall you have 10,000 test cases. So is it better to look in the login module, or you're going to look through 10,000 test cases and find this? Do you understand? So the login module will tell you which module the particular test case belongs to. And it's also important. So for example, I will say, well, we did impact analysis and developers said that login module needs regression testing because there were some changes there. So you'll say right away, okay, so for login module, look, I have all of these test cases for the login module. You see login, 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 login. Here I have login plus select user. I'm going to execute all of those test cases because they fall under login module. So I want to make sure that nothing is broken in the login module. So as a result of it, I need to, execute those test cases. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Test objective. Every test case needs to do something in terms of what are we trying to achieve. That's what you need to. Why are you testing this? What are you trying to achieve by doing this right now? By clicking this button, what are you trying to achieve right now? That's test objective. So now this is the trick. Test objective is the high-level scenario. Do you understand? This is the trick. When you create test objective, this is your high-level scenario. So this area, which I just selected, you might not have it. You might have only this and still be able to test the application. But what are the disadvantages of having just this? Can you tell me?
Say that
what are the disadvantages?
Disadvantage of precondition?
No. What are the disadvantages just to have the test objective without all of this, without precondition steps, expected results, without all of this? Imagine this is not there anymore. You don't have it. That's it. It's gone. You have only this. What is the disadvantage just having this?
First, it is incomplete information. Second, how are we gonna do the testing?
Why? You're gonna do the testing. If you build this just scenarios, you will be able to do this. Any idea?
Can you put that thing back so that I read in?
You want me to put everything back?
and get some idea. Oh, because of what the preconditions are and the steps, how to follow the test objectives.
Yeah, but remember what did I tell before? If you don't have steps, then nobody else would be able to follow this throughout. Only you would be able to do, because you're getting familiar with the application, so you can build high-level scenarios. High-level scenarios, your cheat paper. You will understand this because you're building this, right? But if my daughter comes in and I'll say, can you execute this? She will not be able to do it. She will go here and say, verify application, allow user to log in. Okay, that's easy to understand. But later, verify clicking select different user link, right? Verify clicking select different user link. Where is the link? How do I know where the link is? On which screen? How do I know that?
So we need the precondition and steps.
Do you understand? And another problem would be automation. If you will hire an automation guy and will say, okay, here's this high-level scenario, he will not understand this. He would need to spend extra time trying to figure out things.
So this test objective can also be called as high-level test cases? That's what you mean?
What's that?
So I got it. The test objectives also represent as a high-level test scenario, because if this precondition and steps and expected result, all this information was not there, that means detail-level test cases are missing. Then how are we going to execute it, right?
Yes.
So the precondition and the test, these two information will help an automation engineer also to do automation tests, because these are detailed.
Correct. So again, test objective is your high-level scenarios. Ideally, if you have enough time, and ideally you should build always detail-level test cases. Okay? Detail-level test cases. That's what you got to build. Understand?
Mm-hmm. So this whole thing, whole chart is a high-level test cases? Or just the test objective is considered as a high-level test cases?
This whole spreadsheet is not the high-level test cases. Where do you see high-level test cases? This is detail-level steps, because it has steps. Do you see its steps? It's pointing you where should you go. So this is not high-level test. This is a sample test case detail level. Do you see? This is detail level. And without this, this would be high level.
Exactly. That's what I meant. This is exactly what I meant.
So that's what it is. Okay?
Got it.
So the test objectives, you need to formulate test objectives. You need to know what are you testing. You need to know what are you verifying. You need to know what are you validating. You need to know what are you comparing against. You understand? That's what you have to ask yourself. If you do something, what is the goal? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to achieve, right? In your test case. So this first test scenario here, verify application allows user to log in using valid PIN. So the goal here is to be able to log into the application using the valid PIN. So if you have a valid PIN and if you have a username, I assume you should have a password as well. I don't know. Maybe for this application, I'm not familiar with this application, but maybe there is just a PIN without the password. Maybe PIN serves as the password. So if you have a user to log name and the PIN, you would be able to log into the application. So that's the first test case. It's a positive test case. Why? Because it's a positive scenario. you logging in with a valid PIN. Negative scenario would be you logging in with invalid PIN. Right? That would be the negative test case.
Correct. You got it.
So if I have a date of birth field, right? And the date of birth field, this is my defined field. Let's say date of birth field. So this is 2/12, for example. Okay, that's how the date of birth field defined. Now, so the positive test cases, I would enter the valid information here. The negative test case for this would be right?
Yeah, correct.
That's the negative test case. Okay? You're entering invalid information, not like a normal user would do. And you have to verify. So the test cases are positive test cases, negative test cases, falls under functional test cases. If we talk about testing functionality, that's the functional level test cases, they break down into the two major categories: positive test cases, negative test cases, right? So what would be the negative test case here for this case?
Putting invalid PIN.
Okay, now, if I put the invalid PIN, my expected result, you see, it says verify application prevents login using invalid PIN. Now, what do you see this as a problem? Launch Zyro 5 Pro application from computer, input invalid PIN, click on login button. This is the last step. This is expected results. This is what should happen. System should prevent login and display error message. What do you think is incorrect in this test case? You got to figure out. Just concentrate around this line. System should prevent login and display error message. What is not correct or incomplete in this particular thing?
When you put invalid PIN and hit login, it displays the error message. So what can be wrong? I don't know.
You don't know?
It should prevent from login.
Remember, we're verifying. You're doing static testing right now on this test case. You do a peer review, right? Somebody is asking you to...
What the error message should be?
Exactly. Don't give me this, generic error message. What kind of error message? I need to verify this as well. If system throwing this error message, my next step here would be make sure to verify the error message. And then the error message should be displayed as unable to log in into the system or something like this. Right?
Oh, right, correct. To let us know what exactly.
You got to see this right away. Remember, anything you read, anything you check, anything you double check, it called static testing, and you want to make sure that the static testing is done properly on anything you review. Okay? Anything what you review.
Got it.
That's extremely, extremely important. Okay?
It is, yes.
Extremely, extremely important. Any questions?
No.
So you see the steps? Now, there are different types. So there's functional, there could be functional positive, functional negative. Also, there could be UI, user interface. Okay? User interface is if you want to verify a button, if you want to verify a name on the screen, the name of the section, drop downs. If you want to verify visually something, that's UI related test case. You want to verify colors, you want to verify certain things, you know, that's the UI related test cases, right? So there are different types. For now, let's just concentrate around functional positive, functional negative, and functional UI. Later on, we'll talk about integration test cases, security-related test cases, performance-related test cases, integration-related test cases, right? And few others, right? But at minimum, right now, you need to understand the functional positive, functional negative, and functional and just UI based. Okay. So do you see the steps? Steps has the expected results, right? So what does it mean? Click on username. System should display non-editable username. It's giving you what you should see, right? After clicking, after performing an event on something within the application, what are you going to see as a next step? What system will do? How system will react? How system will respond? Those are specific things which we need to document. Now, where do you get this information? You get this information from where? Can you tell me? Are you guess how it's supposed to be? Are you looking at the application to put this, or are you looking for some other areas?
Can you say it again?
Excuse me?
Can you say it again?
I'm asking you, where do you find this detail information for the expected results? Where do you take this information? You made this up. You take this from some sources. From where are you taking this? Or you make this up? Or you're looking at the application, how it's supposed to behave, and then you put it here. How testers normally do?
We follow the test case, sets of test cases from test plan.
What did you say?
So to verify, to know exactly what it should be, we are verifying it from test cases. We are following, comparing it from test cases.
So where are you taking this expected results? You're taking expected results from the requirements document or from the wireframes, because the system at this point of time is not built. The new functionality is not built yet. It's not like you have a benefits and privilege to go into the application and look at it and build the test cases. In some cases, you might see that, but this is a situation when you're building regression test cases. Already, it was released 20 centuries ago, and nobody ever created the test cases, and then you build the test cases based on what you see in the application. Okay? Now, if there is only requirements, which is user stories or wireframes, you have to build test cases based on this document only. And you have to take information from there. If information is not there, you have to ask questions. But you don't need to guess. You don't need to come up. Like, for example, remember here, we were saying, what is the error message? If the error message is not in the requirements document, what you should do? That's part of the static testing. You should have identified this in the static testing. Do you see what's the problem now? Because nobody finds that in the requirements it doesn't have specific error message, now you have to suffer, and it's already late. because you want to build test cases, but you're building test cases on the requirements which is not fully defined. So what you need to do is you have to come back and say, well, I don't have the expected result. I don't know what that error message is. I need to define in my test case what that error message is. And I cannot find this in the requirements. And everybody say, oh, wow, good job. You find this a really good means from the requirements perspective. But remember, we discussed this. It's too late. You should not find this in the test design phase. You should find this where?
Static testing.
In the requirements phase, yes. During the static testing. Do you see what the problem is now? Because requirements was not validated properly. My guys, my people created this. So I have a problem with my guys now. Why? Because who was responsible for validating requirements didn't raise the red flag at that point of time. If he would raise the red flag at that point of time, he would have this error message in there. Or my guy is not good enough. We have the error message in the requirements. He just simply ignored it and just put this without putting a correct error message. I don't know what is what. It could be either or that case, right? There couldn't be any other cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's not good. If I'm peer reviewing these test cases, I will be extremely, extremely not happy. Hi guys, this is not a good quality work. You cannot put a generic message. You got to put a complete message, what the user will see when the message will pop up. And that's what we need to validate. If you didn't validate this, imagine you didn't validate it. That's it. And that's how you will miss the defect. What if this error message, which we don't know what it is missing a couple letters or a couple words or phrased incorrectly or incompletely? And you're not verifying in any of your test cases, you're not verifying this error message. What will happen? There will be a defect. And who's going to find this defect? If you're lucky, people in UAT, during user acceptance testing, will find. If you're not lucky, customers will find in production environment. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what a big deal and how big of the problem is? But because I taught you how to do static testing, I explain you how to verify requirements and what to look into the requirements and what things are missing in those requirements, you will prevent this. So by the time you going to start building the test cases, what will happen? You will have all of the information in the requirements what you were looking for. You will have everything what you need in the requirements document. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So if you think of it, you don't have to reinvent a wheel. You don't have to guess anything. If you're guessing, it means you did a poor job during static testing of your requirements. If you have everything and you're not guessing and you're building the test cases because you have all the details and you have all of the expected results, that means you did a good job on static testing. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Did we do a good job on static testing here?
No.
So how to do a good job on static testing? Do you know?
It should be more informative and elaborative.
But you have to inspect the requirements. You have to go line by line, letter by letter, word by word, image by image, and make sure there are no problems and no ambiguities. and no uncertainties. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
I know it's a silly question, but any beginner level QA performs static testing, or is a company, every company give like a beginning level QA to do the static testing, or just like who is already experienced and been working for that company for a long time, that department will take care of the static testing, because it is such a responsible job.
So remember what I said. Everyone is responsible for the quality. So everyone is responsible or have the opportunity to do a static testing on their own, meaning that you not have the opportunity. It's a must for you to do a static testing. Now, product owner, product owner can review the document requirements, but he or she should identify problems also. Developers who will be working on this project, on the sprint, on the release, should also review it and ask the question, because developers need to implement this error message. So if I'm a developer and I don't see in the requirement document specific error message, which says, unable to log in due to incorrect PIN number or something like this. And by the way, when it comes to the login, nobody ever explained what you did wrong, because that's for security purposes. So did you ever log in and it says just username and password is incorrect? You put password is incorrect. So somebody might expect to get, the answer, your password was incorrect. But for security purposes, nobody will give you a clue. They just said generically, username and password combination is incorrect. That's specifically done on purpose, not to give hints to hackers to hack you. Do you understand? So in this case, I'm a developer. I'm reading requirements, and I know I need to implement this specific requirement, specific error message. I don't have this error message. What should I do? I should go to a person who wrote this requirement, business analyst, or anybody who is responsible for it. Doesn't matter the role. Let's say it's a business analyst. And I will tell Mr. Business Analyst, can you please define what that error message should be? Because without it, I'm going to just put blah, 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 blah. Do you want me to put blah, blah, blah or not? Or you want me to put a specific message, right? But the question is, we get to this point, to the point of building the test cases already, and nobody ever asked this question. Do you understand? Nobody. Developers never ask. So what they will do, what do you think they will do? They will implement based on their common sense, based on the previous experience. They will come up with the error message themselves. Is it a good thing to come up with the error message themselves? It's not a good thing. Is it a good to build a car garage based on builder's expectation, or it should be based on your expectations, because you're the owner, not the builder, right? So you got that, right?
Okay.
Excellent. So tomorrow we're going to continue, and I'm going to give you more examples, and we're going to work together. We're going to show you a requirement, and we're going to try to build a test case based on this requirement together. Okay, step by step. We're going to put test objective. We're going to put steps. We're going to put expected results. If we're going to not see expected results, we're going to complain. We're going to ask the questions, what it's supposed to be in the requirements. How come requirements are missing X, Y, and Z? We're going to do this as a real exercise. And that will trigger you to understand how to build test cases, because you would need to build at minimum 50 test cases yourself. before you start going for the interviews and looking for a job. I want you to build 50 test cases minimum, okay? And I will give you assignments. You're going to be participating in the projects, testing real projects with us, finding defects, but building the test cases. You're going to build test cases together with our senior guys, okay? And you're going to see their version, and they're going to see your version, and you're going to do a comparison, okay? Why you were missing certain things and why they have more coverage or more variations or permutations or scenarios as opposed to you, okay? That's how you're going to learn, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Any questions?
No questions.
No questions. Excellent. So I'm going to send this to you. I'm going to send the recording. You're going to, listen tomorrow, and that's the beauty of this, where we combine lectures, so you will not forget this. Tomorrow we'll jump into the building the test cases and do the hands-on practice first, okay? Because I want to make sure that building the test cases, that's the most important thing for a tester. I said the most important thing before it's analyzing the requirements, which is true as well. But the building test cases is your phase, is your output. Finding defects and declaring the defect is your output. Building the test plan is your output. Completing the final execution report is your phase, is your output. See, all of this you need to do very, very well. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Any questions? If no questions, we did wonderfully. 2 hours, right on the mark. We even have 5 more minutes. If you want to ask any general questions in what we covered or just in general, we still have time. If you don't have it, we, can close it.
You said we're going to be working. I will start working on the real project after one more lecture week, right?
Yeah, this week and then the following week, and then in following week. So basically, let's look at the calendar here. So you're gonna start from 30th. We're gonna place you on the project already, and we're gonna continue lectures, and we're gonna do it. Okay, so you're in a beautiful time right now. Why? Because of this disaster. Okay, everybody is kind of not doing much, but you are starting. So when things will get back to normal, you will be ready for the market, and you will come out and start going on the interview. Do you understand? So it's a beautiful time. Unfortunately, it's a pretty sad situation, but for you, for everybody, I keep saying, this is the great time to study right now. You gotta, work hard, study hard, get ready with your ammunition, and then go to the war to get to the interviews when the situation normalized and start sending resumes, and people will be asking you to come on the interview. It's going to be very, very active because everybody will return back to work and the things will start again. It's a little impact right now. Again, I hope it will not impact, QA industry, which it might, because a lot of money is getting lost by investors. Might start investing, stop building new companies, new startups, new products, less testing, less development. So we might see domino effect, but still, I believe everything will be fine. You will be ready, probably by, end of April, you will be up and running, ready to rock and roll. And, we build the resume based on the project, which you will participate with. You're going to do 4 or 5 projects with us, different types, and you will feel very comfortable and you will be ready to pass any interviews. Okay?
Yeah. Just looking forward to it. Thank you.
Excellent. So very good. But again, let's concentrate. I'm going to send you specific homework assignment. So you're going to do it and you're going to complete it. And again, Tomorrow is kind of a combined lecture, so we will give more emphasis on building. You will be building the test cases yourself. You will be writing them, not me. You will be creating steps. You will be creating preconditions. You will be creating expected results based on the requirements. It's going to be a very, very interesting session. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Very good. So you feeling better because you were, again, under the weather or a little bit sick, or?
I've been like on and off like this couple of days, but nothing major, whatever is going on, but.
Okay.
I feel a little bit low, but I feel better because maybe it's just a regular cold. Hopefully. Yeah.
So don't get sick, you know.
Yeah. No.
Try to stay home.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll meet each other tomorrow. Okay. See you tomorrow, and we'll have another session.
Yeah, sure.
On this topic. And again, I will send you recording, review, listen, ask questions. You know, I want to make sure that this part will be extremely important. Also, in our book, 500-page textbook, you'll find a section about the test cases. So you can read that section as well. You can watch the online video from this e-learning course as well. You have all the tools available with you. Plus, you have training from me, you know, which is giving you everything, all the details, what you should know and what you should do and how to create test cases the right way. Because I built in my career so many test cases myself, you would not even imagine, different types. And I know exactly what to do and what not to do and how to build the proper test cases and optimize test cases, not just test cases for the sake of test cases, but test cases which will reveal defects, because the goal of the test cases are to reveal problems and assure that all the angles of the functionalities are covered properly, right? That's the key. All right. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Okay? Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you so much.